what's up, America? I'm America's sweetheart, Eric Ryan, and this is Damned Lies and Statistics, the show where we take a deep dive into commonly misunderstood or unknown subjects for the American public by talking to experts and authors on those subjects. It's kind of like reading Rainbow for adults, which makes me kind of like the Costco version of LeVar Burton, which is to say way cheaper and way worse. Today's topic is the demonization of psychedelics, which hits home for me because if there's one thing that I like more than drinking Baker's 7 until I can't hear my kids crying anymore, it's eating little brown mushrooms that make me taste colors and see sounds until I can't hear my kids cry anymore. Here's the thing. Psilocybin and other psychedelics have been used for thousands of years in various cultures for religious purposes and healing purposes and for a good time, probably, with zero stigma attached until they ran into the four horsemen of ruining everything. Christianity, government, big pharma, and dorks that hate fun. As you'll see in this episode, despite what mainstream media and society wants you to believe, mushrooms are much, much safer than other mind-altering recreational substances. By many accounts, they help your brain rather than hurt it. And Johns Hopkins University, Yale, NYU, the New England Journal of Medicine, my dealer, and many other prestigious institutions have produced numerous clinical trials that have shown that psilocybin can lead to significant reductions in symptoms of anxiety and depression, with effects lasting months after a single dose. But you don't have to take my word for it. Today's guest is Cesar Marin, who is a producer for CNN for 22 years before founding Cultivating Wisdom and Microdosing50.com, which are companies dedicated to helping people over 50 harness the benefits of microdosing for cognitive enhancement and creativity. I want to be just like Caesar when I grow up, which is to say old and high. I'm kidding, kind of. He's much more than that, and you're going to see that now. You're going to love him, I know I do, and you're going to love Damn Lies and Statistics, the demonization of psychedelics. Now, please, enjoy. All right, Caesar, you want to talk about damn lie number one?
Yes, please. Give it to me.
Damn lie number one. Psychedelics have always been seen as dangerous and worthy of stigma. Wrong. Like, can I present my case real quick and you let me know if you agree?
Yes, please.
Okay. What I think we have here is 300,000 years of the human experience versus 54 years of government and religious
intervention,
propaganda against psychedelics and hallucinogens. And this is why I think, Brian, can you pull up the first picture? This, obviously, is a cave drawing of an Albanian mushroom shaman. Obviously, Albania didn't exist. What's that?
Tell them how long ago this was.
This is 9,000 BC. So according to my public school education, that's about 11,000 years ago, right?
Yes.
Okay. In the article, which I will link to, it says that this is one of many depictions of the shaman. But it says the shaman are dancing with fistfuls of mushrooms. They also have mushrooms sprouting out of their bodies. In one instance, they're shown running joyfully, surrounded by the geometric structures of their hallucinations. So you have to consider this is a time where there's no stigma attached to psychedelics or psilocybin. It's just people eating things and going, this is amazing.
Yeah.
But so we know, so 11,000 years ago, we know that indigenous spiritual practices have been using psilocybin because they alter your state of consciousness.
Correct.
But someone doesn't like that, and that someone is the Christian church.
Correct.
So for many reasons, but I think part of it is that when you take a mushroom, you have a direct spiritual experience. There's no intermediaries. You don't need anyone from a church to sort of be the middleman between you and God, or you
direct connection to source.
Right, straight from the source. And in that case, the church loses its authority, and it sort of loses its power. And they don't. Right. There's no reason to give them any money. Plus, I know that the church doesn't like being associated with pagan rituals, even though Christmas and Easter, which I got to tell you, a little pagan.
A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. So you have this. So as far as Western civilization goes, the church comes in, sort of buries the idea of hallucinogenics, psychedelics, psilocybin, right? Then what happens, and I'm going to let you go, but in 1957, R. Gordon Wasson is sent down by Time Life magazine to southern Mexico does mushrooms with Maria Sabina. Can we pull
Sabina,
that picture up,
correct.
Ryan?
The wonderful Maria Sabina.
Yeah, so she sort of opens up psychedelics, specifically psilocybin, to the Western world. This article gets published in Time Life, and all of a sudden, Mick Jagger, John Lennon, Bob Dylan, Pete Townsend,
Everyone's
they all
going
go
down
down there. And people are experiencing psilocybin for the first time, and it's blowing their minds. Now, between 1957, when the article is published, in 1970, it becomes illegal. It's a class
Correct.
1 drug, along with
Correct.
LSD, heroin, MDMA, weed, peyote, and DMT.
All of them.
So has it been your experience, because your whole thing is getting people older to experience psilocybin for the first time? They lived through ostensibly the 60s and 70s when this stuff was positive. What happened?
Well, most of them, some of them lived through the 60s and 70s when it was popular, but they were very young. You know what I mean? There was still young people. Yes, there was people in their 20s that experiment with this, and then the government said, no, you can't. And it was literally taken away, whether it was studies that were being done and advancements being done. But again, because it was this counterculture, because the government felt people were awakening and being free and talking up about what they didn't like about the government, that's when it was shut down. So it's funny because, you know, I have people in my generation, in my scope, who were stigmatized that psychedelics were bad, that psychedelics were horrible, as well as I have the people who had experiences but just didn't do it the right way, and maybe had a negative experience, but then it was taken away, and now they're saying, okay, wait a minute, I can use these with different intentions, with different ability to better myself. You know, that's a totally different thing than what we were talking about in the 60s.
So absolutely a lie that mushrooms have always been stigmatized and demonized. It's it really just is the last 54 years,
correct,
as compared to at least 11,000 according to cave drawings.
Correct.
Probably much longer than that.
Not always stigmatized. They were stigmatized by governments that didn't like to see people awaken, opening, and questioning what the government was doing. And that's pretty much why the kibosh was put on. And that's why it's great where we are right now. People are awakening to the fact that psychedelics used responsibly don't have to be stigmatized, and we don't have to fear them.
That's the beautiful thing, is that it's stigmatized by people that have a direct benefit from stigmatizing them.
Correct. You know? Of course.
Yeah. How convenient.
Yes. How convenient. Exactly. How convenient that lie for them. Go figure.
Right. Who'd have thunk? All right, let's go to damn lie number 2. Okay. So we agree on the first one. Yes, we agree on the first one. Damn lie number 2, psychedelics are more dangerous than alcohol. Now, can I just preface this? I won't go on so long. I love alcohol. So this is not a Republican versus Democrat thing. This is not Red Sox versus Yankees. I love both things almost equally. But objectively speaking, alcohol is so much worse. Brian, can you pull up the first slide? Okay, so this is a list of recreational drugs, I suppose, in their substances, and their dangers to the user. Now, this is lying with statistics a little bit, only because alcohol is so readily available. In fact, I want to pull up. Can you pull up the second image real quick? We're living in the golden age of hillbillies. I don't know if you know this, but there's did you know that there's a hard Mountain Dew between J.D. Vance?
No way.
Yeah, you get fucked up off Baja Blast. Hillbillies they're having a moment. Okay,
oh, goodness.
Can you go back to the first one real quick?
Oh, goodness.
Okay, look at alcohol. So the blue is damage to you. The purple is damage to others. This is a study that was published in The Economist. Alcohol, and then heroin, crack, methamphetamine, coke, tobacco, amphetamines, cannabis, benzos, but go from the bottom up. Mushrooms, LSD, and ecstasy.
Mushrooms, LSD, ecstasy, the bottom.
Greatest. That's
no bottom. Purple at all. There's no purple at all. There's no harm to anybody else.
No harm whatsoever.
It's okay. You know what? Go ahead. It's crazy, Eric. I tell people, look, and I've seen it personally. Look, I've been on situations where, you know, I've taken psychedelics for the experience of being around people and having this sense of, you know, my senses being a little bit heightened, but not, you know, blasted off. And at the same time, I've been around people who have been drinking, and I'm like, man, people, when they drink, they get sloppy. Like,
terrible.
It turns into sloppiness. Like alcohol just equates to sloppy. That's it.
you get behind the wheel of the car, you say some shit you don't mean, you black out, you don't know what the hell happens. And again, I love drinking. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's my favorite. So this blows my mind because so I have a group of friends. Occasionally we'll do mushrooms together. So I had a mushroom dinner party once, and I invited all my cool friends, and they came over. I grilled some food. We had mushrooms. We sat on the couch. We watched sacred geometry on YouTube, listened to Spangle. We decided to open up a paperweight company. Oh, it was the best. Prior to that, I invited, it was fucking wild. Prior to that, I was at soccer, and I was inviting new parents who I don't really know. I was like, hey, listen, we have a mushroom party coming up. It was as if I suggested we sink a Disney cruise liner full of puppies. Whatever white people like, I don't know. It's like they're like, oh my God.
Oh my God. Mushrooms. Oh.
What if I'd said, guys, you want to have some White Claws and shoot some guns? They would have been like, absolutely.
Yeah, let's go. Where do I sign up? It's crazy. It's seriously ridiculous that sort of the stuff that's acceptable and not acceptable in this world. And again, look, it goes back to the first lie, the stigmatization that psychedelics are bad, that psychedelics are for people who are drug addicts, that psychedelics are for people that go follow bands around the country, that psychedelics are for people in back alleys.
Oh, can I show you what psychedelics are for? This is perfect. Brian, can you pull up the third slide? These are the people most likely to do mushrooms. I know it's a little hard to read, but the first one, people who are liberal, people who make over $100,000, progressives, age 30 to 40, people that live in cities. This is sort of a target demographic. Like if I'm an advertiser and I go, who's most likely to do psychedelics? This is not bad, you know?
No. Yeah. And again, it's that consciousness. And look, once again, psychedelics are not for everybody. No. Please understand that. Psychedelics are not for everybody, and we're not advocating or condoning in any way that anybody does anything illegal whatsoever.
That's a good caveat.
But the studies are there. The studies are there to show of psychedelic therapy outweighs the alcoholic therapy. That's for sure. I'll tell you that much.
Let me say this too. Like everyone's afraid of the bad trip. But my point is, okay, have you ever had bad pizza? Yes. Have you ever gone to a bad movie? Yes. Have you ever had bad sex? My wife has it all the time. It's not like you go, well, I'm going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and never have pizza, go to the movies, or have sex again. So don't be, again, we're not advocating.
No.
I'm just saying there's a lot of stigmas.
Be open to it. Yeah. Do your homework. Educate yourself. That's what it's about.
Speaking of which, what a nice segue into damn lie number 3. You ready for this one?
I can't wait. It's probably doozy.
Damn lie 3. Psychedelics cause irreparable psychological damage. I would suggest that not only does it not cause damage, but according to studies, psilocybin increases connectivity between different regions of the brain that don't typically communicate. This can break down traditional neural pathways and create new connections, fostering novel ways of thinking and perceiving the world. Brian, can you pull up the first image? The left is a depiction of the way the brain normally operates. The right is on psilocybin, where you have quarters. So, you know, that thing, everybody's like, oh, you only use 10% of your brain. I think that's been proven not to be true. But in this case, what the brain does do, because it's lazy, like all of our organs, is it forms habits. And those habits are energy saving and they're great. But what you do is you end up missing a lot of things.
Yes.
Because you think in what's called default mode network.
The default mode network, correct.
And if you're always in the default mode network, then look at the way your brain operates. Whereas on the right, once you do psilocybin, they say it's like a childlike wonder. It's because you see the world anew. Different regions of the brain, they're talking to region of the brain they don't normally. So then all of a sudden wind is meaningful or a conversation is very interesting. It's like, I think I read this too, that they've done brain scans of toddlers' brains and brain scans of people on psychedelics, and they look very similar.
They look very similar. And I love this graphic that you're using, Eric, because it's from the Beckley Institute. And there's this analogy of psychedelics where, you know, the image on the left-hand side, which is your usual brain, your default mode network brain, it's you're skiing down these slopes. The analogy is you're continuously skiing down these slopes that are your traits, your habits, the thing you've been programmed, and that's just constantly where you are. And then when psychedelics are introduced, it's almost like they lay down this new sheet of snow, and you have all these other paths you can go down, and you can open up all these other doors to creativity and empathy and authenticity that you just usually skate right by or ski right by because you're in these default mode networks. So it's I love that graphic that you have there.
Yeah. You know what they said too? Another study said that if you look at people's brain patterns when they're not on psilocybin, they look very different from each other. But once somebody does psilocybin, they start, so the neuro fingerprint without it looks very different. The neuro fingerprint on psilocybin looks similar. It would be great because empathy, sympathy, things that would make us better humans, if our brain fingerprints started to look more similar and we saw the world in a more empathetic and sympathetic light. And that's...
it's sort of, it's so true. It's so true because I think even that lie, if it was just change, if one or two words a day, it's all about words. If it was psychedelic causes irreparable awakening in the brain, that is not a lie. Because anybody that's had a psychedelic experience, a true one with the correct setting, with the correct, reasons why, intentions why you're doing this, that what has happened, that awakening, what you have seen, is
and it doesn't take much. Brian, can you
irreparable.
pull up the second picture real quick? So a single magic mushroom experience can desynchronize your brain for up to 3 weeks, which sounds scary, but it's not. It's all positive. And let me tell you this about what these are people who famously, well, in this case, it was LSD, but Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, Aldous Huxley, Francis Crick, the Nobel Prize winning co-discoverer of the DNA double helix, said that LSD was a huge part of that discovery. You have the Beatles, Jimi Hendrix, Ken Kesey. I mean, so many artists have used these things.
I know a guy that wrote a book on LSD.
There you go. So when you're faced with this information, how you still go, yeah, but it's scary. Isn't it scary? I just don't. I'd rather have 18 Trulies. I want some mango passion fruit Trulies. Strange.
No.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is very strange. It is very strange that that's the way we look at things. But again, look, little by little, people are awakening. There's more. I think the fact that there's more research, Eric. I think the fact that, look, it's the same thing that I keep harping to. This is not the psychedelics of the 60s. This is the psychedelics of Johns Hopkins University. This is the psychedelics of NYU. This is the psychedelics of Berkeley. This is the psychedelics of Stanford University. This is the psychedelics of many big time institutions really doing studies and figuring out how they can use these substances to help people get over trauma, anxiety, so many other things. So it's not the psychedelics of the 60s. Let's go blast off in the woods, and not that there's anything wrong with that.
I was going to say,
don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's not bad mouth blasting off in the woods. No, but I will say, what a beautiful segue. It's almost as if you read the agenda, because damn line number 4.
I did get the rundown.
Okay, damn line number 4. Psychedelics are ineffective in treating anxiety and depression. Let me tell you what is ineffective. Whatever it is we're doing right now, because you pull up the first image. Let's take a look at the state of mental health in the United States, because it's embarrassing. So 1 in 4 of people over the age of 18 are on some sort of anxiety or depression medication. That's more than 50 million Americans. It's going up by 20% every year. The states in orange are going up exponentially. It's weird that Florida, who could use it, isn't on it. But let me just run down. Okay.
Yeah, how's Florida not on there?
I have no idea. It's probably because they're too dumb to know. The United States represents 4% of the world population. We consume 80% of the world's opioids. We spend $326 billion on anxiety and depression medications. 22 veterans kill themselves every day. We're 34th, despite being the richest nation in the world. We're 34th in suicide rate out of 193 countries. We're 48th in life expectancy. We spend the most per capita by double. Second place on healthcare in this country. We're paying Lamborghini prices for a Kia Soul. It's not as if we're anti-medication. Obviously, we take a lot of it. But it seems to be, no matter how much we spend and how many pills we're prescribed, things aren't working. And to your point, studies on psychedelics from the best hospitals and institutions, colleges, universities in the world have proved how effective they are. Yet they remain this impossible thing to get a hold of, despite these numbers. That's insanity.
It is insanity. It is insanity. And there's Eric, I've come across so many people, so many stories of just how psychedelics have changed their lives, right? And it's you're right. The system is broken, right? We're in a system where, and this is not talking about every single doctor. I'm not singling out any doctor or all doctors, but there's a majority of doctors where you're going to go to their office and they're literally going to say, I'm not sure what you have, but let's try these pills. And if those don't work, come back and try these. And if those for some reason upset your stomach and upset your liver, then we'll give you these other ones. And the next thing you know, you got a plastic thing with 10 pills for Monday, pills for Tuesday, and it's crazy. It's just we're sort of, someone said these doctors should have like NASCAR cars, like sponsors of who they're pushing out pills to, because it's silly what's going on. And sometimes people say doctors, they don't know much. They're not even taught nutrition. There's a wonderful story of a woman who came into my life through LinkedIn, actually, and she was telling me how she had an ear infection at the early age as a child. And because of that ear infection, she brought on some trauma, that there's this eating disorder called affairs, where you can only have like 3 or 4 foods. That's it. Everything else is just disgusting. You can't, whatever. Psychologists, nothing. Nutritionists, nothing. Doctors, nothing. And she comes across this article of people using psychedelics to overcome eating disorders, the typical ones, anorexia, bulimia. And she has this epiphany and say, hey, what happens if maybe psychedelics can help me? And she asks her partner, she says, hey, I'm going to take some medicine. I want you to sit for me. I want you to take care of me. Go under. I need you to take out 4 or 5 plates of stuff that I would never eat, never in a million years. She's like, you sure? Yes. Okay. So she puts her blindfold on. She goes under. Medicine comes on. And she's like, what's that? What's that smell? What's that smell? And blindfolded, she walks up to the food and she starts to eat it. And she's like, wait a minute. That's what I've been missing? That's what this whole time, since such an early age, I've been telling myself here mentally that this was bad, that I couldn't, that it wasn't going to happen. And yet sitting with psilocybin helped me open that up. So is that irreparable? Yes, of course, that's wonderfully irreparable. Those are the type of things that psychedelics can do. So you can't tell me that this does not help people. That opening up of the mind, right? That consciousness that psychedelics give us. You can't tell me that cannot help people.
Of course, according to John Hopkins, psilocybin acts on serotonin receptors in the brain, which play a key role in mood regulation. This can help alleviate symptoms of depression and anxiety. It's been known to help promote neuroplasticity.
Correct.
We take so many medications that have everything else to do with our body. Very rarely do we take anything for our brain, which is steering the goddamn ship. And Brian, can you pull up that last image? This, I think, is shocking. And single dose psilocybin for treatment-resistant episodes of major depression from the New England Journal of Medicine. I'll link to this wherever this is posted. Single doses of psilocybin have been proven effective for the worst cases of depression where nothing else has worked. Isn't this compelling enough for, you would think, modern medicine to go, all right, well, what are we doing? Why isn't it?
They haven't figured out the way to make money in it yet. That's the problem.
Well, I know.
That is, in other words, and that's again because because there's medicine. These are medicines that, if you're doing it naturally, one strain of mushrooms can have a different effect than a different strain of mushrooms. So that's hard to regulate, right? That's incredibly hard to regulate for the government. I always say, look, there's these 2 psychedelics are on the seesaw. One side wants it to be, you have to go to a doctor, and the doctor's going to have to sign you a prescription, and you have to take that prescription to the pharmacy, and you have to get your little opaque bottle with the white top, and that's how you're going to take your psilocybin. There's people on the other side that are going to say, what, you nuts? You crazy? Like, I can grow mushrooms in my house, and I can do it myself. I don't need to go to a doctor. So it's this sense of where we're going to be in the middle, right? That we move forward. But I think that 2 beautiful things. One, the fact that you and I are having this discussion, the fact that you and I are talking about psychedelics in an open, honest, and objective way is incredibly important. We're not out here, hey, laughing, let's go get blazed, let's go. No, we're having honest, open conversations about how this could really help people. So that's number one. Number one, the fact that we're talking about it is incredibly important. And I think the idea that people are really using this correctly, intentionally, responsibly, is big that we're getting this message out. That's really important.
I agree. I was hoping we'd go get Blaze in the Woods after, but I guess we don't
We
have
should.
to.
There's studies that say that helps. I saw. That was the other thing I was going to say. The other great, Eric, the great thing about you doing shows like this, that you bring information with documentation, right? The science is there to back this up. The studies are there. You know what I mean? Yeah, that we're just in the infancy. We're just trying to figure out. We're just trying to see how this is regulated, how this can be done. Yes, of course. But
and at this point, it seems irrefutable. And again, I'm going to let you plug your book in a second. But
of course.
I think it's a little bit of what Chris Rock said. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but he did say years ago, I believe it was in Bigger and Blacker, I think. But he said the money is never in the cure. The money's in the treatment. He goes, we haven't cured shit since polio. So if you can have prescribed somebody a statin every month, or Zoloft or Xanax every month, as opposed to a single dose that does something, well, then you're losing out on an awful lot of money.
Of course you
are. We have a for-profit healthcare system. Which
no, it's not a business model to have people cured. Sorry, it's not. I need you to come back. I need you to have that subscription membership to my pills. You know what I mean?
Convenient. How very convenient. All right. So again, let's just while we wrap up here, I want to stress that we're not telling you to do anything illegal, but I will say that William Blake said that the true method of knowledge is experiment. So maybe you should do a little experimentation for yourself.
Do your research. Do your research. And if sometimes that research is having someone sit with me in a responsible way with the correct setting to do some research on what these medicines might do.
So that's an excellent point. So do your research, not on QAnon or Fox News, but talk to an expert. Caesar, you wrote a book, Cultivating Wisdom, A Guided Journey. Where can they get it? Where can they talk to you? Tell me, do a little talk to yourself.
Of course. So microdosingover50.com is the platform for people over 50 to get objective, honest, and open information about microdosing. Microdosing completely changed my life at the age of 55. So it's something that I really hold dear to my heart, because it did really help me reinvent myself and get myself out of a situation that could have been bad. So Microdosing Over 50, they'll find the free ebook there. Also, I have an apparel brand, Cultivating Wisdom. As you know, Eric, you've seen our stuff. It's just a way for you to be able to manifest the fact that you're using psychedelics responsibly. Start conversations. Someone says, hey, you microdose? I've heard about that. I've read about that. You have a great smile because you microdose. So you can find us there. Cultivatingwisdom.net is the apparel brand. And then a lot of my stuff is on Instagram. A lot of my message, how I use microdosing, different substances that I use. I partner up with really, really great products of people who are doing this the right way and giving good, source and good products to people. So you can find all our partners there. So that's cultivating.wisdom on Instagram. And I'm always around, this knucklehead Eric, whenever you invite me on. So I love coming on anything that you're doing. And just sharing this wisdom. It's sort of the mushrooms told me to go out and set buffet tables of wisdom to cultivate a better future. Eric, thank you for inviting me to your buffet table of wisdom, my brother.
Hey, man, thanks for being on. And Caesar, honestly, you're doing God's work, assuming God is a giant mushroom. And I hope he or she is. Thank you for tuning in to Damn Lies and Statistics. We'll see you next week.